Joining me now, Sean Spicer, Chief Strategist and Communications Director for the Republican National Committee. Great to have you back on The Real Story, Sean. So this was, eye-opening, and I know you were there to hear this as well. But I think a lot of people are a little bit surprised to hear that everything that Donald Trump has been saying out on the stump potentially has been an act and that he's playing a role, but that if you really have a serious policy discussion with him behind closed doors, that he's a different kind of candidate. Is that the correct message that you heard from his new guy?
Well, I'm going to let them speak for themselves. I know a lot of times, candidates articulate themselves on the campaign trail. But, in private, Donald Trump's had several conversations with us at the RNC over the last several months, and they've been great. He understands the role that we play, the importance of the RNC heading into a general election.
It's interesting because Ted Cruz, of course, is pouncing on this right away and saying this. I'll just let it speak for itself. Listen to this.
I'm actually going to give Trump a little bit of credit here. He's being candid. He's telling us he's lying to us. You look at what his campaign manager says, is that this is just an act. This is just a show. When Donald talks about building a wall, when Donald talks about enforcing immigration laws, when Donald talks about, I guess, anything, that it's all an act and a show.
I mean, I guess we would assume that Ted Cruz would come out swinging like that, right?
That's right. I mean, look, I think each of these candidates understands that right now we're facing a potentially open convention. They're saying what they have to say to each of the to the delegates and to the remaining voters out there in the process. I'm going to let them continue to wage that battle between. As we focus on the general election today, we wrapped up a great meeting here in Florida where we talked about how our focus, how our ground game is prepared to take on Hillary Clinton, how our data and digital operation is there, and how we're continuing to raise record amounts of money as we prepare to take on Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, well, we don't know on that side of it yet either. I want you to listen to Haley Barbour. He's talking about what could happen if there is a contested convention. Of course, he used to be with the RNC and governor of Mississippi, has a lot of experience with the Republican Party. Listen to this.
I promise you this, there'll be hurt feelings, no matter how it turns out. And I suspect that when the convention's over, where you normally want a bump, I don't think we'll get a bump. I think no matter what the outcome, Trump wins, Cruz wins, Kasich wins, somebody else wins. 2 ballots, 3 ballots, whatever. I think we'll get a dip.
So he's saying that he believes after the convention in July in Cleveland that the Republican Party will get a dip. I mean, that's not great messaging. I know that that's not the message you want to be sending out.
That's right. No, and I would take issue. I have a lot of respect for Governor Barbour, but I would say a couple things. One is our job at the RNC is going to have the most fair and transparent process because there are 3 individuals that plan on going to Cleveland if things continue the way they are right now. 2 individuals are clearly not going to be happy with the outcome. So what we need to do is make sure that the process is fair and democratic, that everybody watches those votes occur, that as much as we can, we let everybody see the process work its way out. So you may not win, but you know it was fair. And secondly, we've got to make sure that everyone understands the big picture, which is while your candidate might not win, and there's a lot of passion behind each individual candidate right now, that we've got to keep our eye on the bigger prize, and that's defeating Hillary Clinton and putting a Republican back in the White House. Right. We can't afford 4 more years of Democratic rule, and I think our people will get that. And again, the one last thing I'd say, Gretchen, is look, when you look at the debates, the Fox debate, the first one, the last one, millions of people are watching what's going on in Republican politics right now, and that's being matched by record turnout in almost every single state by up to 60-70% in some of these states. Right. So I respectfully disagree with Governor Barbour and say that when you see this convention, people are going to see a great party, a lot of solutions for America, and then we'll walk out with a big bump.
We've seen that passion that's been happening on the Republican side, but you got to be able to square that with the fact that if one of those 3 candidates, and it will turn out that way because there's only going to be one, that you're going to disappoint other people, and you've got a huge job in front of you, and I know you know this, to try and coalesce all the Republicans to actually come out and vote, including those who maybe are coming out to vote for the first time. But before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about the rules, because I think that's been one really frustrating thing to voters out there, and it's a complicated process. That's right. You decided in Florida at this little meeting here, the way it works is you don't change the rules right now. If you decide to change them, it would only happen in July, right?
That's right. So what happens is the RNC generally makes recommendations to the convention and says, hey, over the last 4 years, here are some things that we would suggest that you consider. And they would be merely that, things to be considered or recommendations. Chairman Rice Priebus believes with the additional scrutiny that's occurred around this cycle and people believing that everybody's trying to get for or against a candidate, that he recommended the committee make no recommendations and leave all decisions to the elected delegates in Cleveland so that the grassroots individuals that have been elected from coast to coast will decide, the 2016 delegates will decide what kind of convention we will have in 2016.
Okay. Well said. I know you're in Florida. I hope you can, I don't know, enjoy some sort of a drink on the beach before you wrap things up there.
The second this is done, this tie's coming off. Thanks, Gretchen.
All right, you deserve it. See you soon.